All right, Mr. Chair, it is 5:30 on the dot. We're ready to go if you are.
This thing on, there we go. Okay, I'm
Yeah.
going to call this, what's the date? Tuesday, May 7th, Ward 3 Neighborhood Advisory Board meeting to order. Can we start with the roll call?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Ilya Arbertman,
Here.
Gabriel Maya,
Here.
Marie Rodriguez. Here. Zachary Bolton,
Here.
Jarrett Singh,
Here.
and Shonda Golden. Here. You have a quorum of the Ward 3 Neighborhood Advisory Board today, Mr. Chair.
Cool. Okay, let's move on to A2. Do we have any public comment?
All right, Mr. Chair. The first item today is public comment. Members of the public may hear, observe, and provide public comment virtually by registering through the following link, which can be found on the reno.gov/meetings website. And the link is as follows: https://links.gov/4/F4T3. It should be noted for those in attendance that comments are to be addressed to the board as a whole. Comments heard under this item will be limited to 3 minutes per person and may pertain to matters both on and off the agenda. The board may not take action upon any matter not agendized on today's agenda. When you are called on for public comment, please state your name for the record and begin speaking. The timer will begin when you say your name, and you will be afforded 3 minutes. There are 2 sections on today's agenda to give public comment. So today during A2 at this moment, and then later on, our closing public comment, item F. At this time, Mr. Chair, I have not received any in-person public comment. If you would like to give public comment, now would be your time. And then let me check on Zoom as well. If you would like to give public comment, I ask that you use the raise hand feature at the bottom of your screen. I'll give you a second to do so if you plan to do so. And seeing none, Mr. Chair.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll move on to A3, approve today's agenda. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
Shonda Golden, for the record, I approve.
Do I have a second?
Zach Bolton, for the record, I approve.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Agenda is approved. And then in our packet here, we've got the minutes from the March meeting. If you guys just, want to give them a glance and then give me a motion to approve those minutes whenever someone's ready.
Marie Rodriguez, for the record, upon review, I approve the minutes from the last meeting in March.
And do I have a second?
Gabriel Maya, for the record, I second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Minutes are approved. And then we'll move on to A5. Councilmember Martinez is here. The council liaison report.
Good evening, board members. Appreciate again, as always, your time, service to our community and making sure that we are looking at these items and issues with your input as we go through it. I don't have any updates on my end. Just wanted to make sure that I thanked you all again for your service and looking forward to the conversations that are going to happen in the upcoming conversations, whether it's the language access plan or the development projects that are coming before you, and interested to hear what your thoughts are for each one of you about that. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Any questions for Councilman Martinez? Well, we got him.
I had a question. I don't know if I've missed the update, but I was curious about the ADU proposal. I know that it was expected to be on agenda and then it was like deprioritized, but do we have an update from the council on where that stands for the ADU ordinance?
I think tomorrow we will be talking about affordable housing and the ability to do some incentives for affordable housing units coming in. And then some of the changes to the allowable uses in certain zones. But I think ADUs are gonna come in June unless I'm mistaken, but I think those two have been separated because the council had asked development services to separate both of those things out. So then we had sort of a cleanup and something about affordable housing on one end and the ADUs as a separate item.
Cool.
Yeah. But
Do you know what an expected timeline would be from when the ADU conversation begins and then when that could be approved and actually take effect where the community could start doing that?
yeah, I think normally, so if we for the ordinance processes, we'd have to do ordinance introduction, and then 2 weeks later would be the adoption, and then implementation after that. And so depending on when it comes on the agenda, whether it's the first or second meeting in June, we would have to do the first reading basically of that ordinance then, and then move on to the second. It's usually the meeting right after that.
Mhm.
So I'm assuming by the end of June, we will have something to go off of. That's if we pass it and there are a majority of folks that approve the ordinance moving forward.
Okay. Have
Yep.
you seen any opposition at all towards it, or does it seem that the council is feeling good about that ordinance?
I haven't spoken to all of the council members, but I do know that hearing from my constituents,
Yeah.
there does seem to be, sort of a split between folks wanting the ability to do ADUs in their properties and folks that don't want it to happen, or not, with it not being allowed
Mhm.
in certain spaces. The other thing I think that muddies a little bit of the conversation is that we're also talking about like adding fourplexes and sixplexes and that sort of stuff and some of the allowable uses. And I think there are different feelings about each one.
Mm.
And we just got to make sure, that we're listening to what our constituents are saying at the end of the day. So I'm still reading through all of the public comments that we're getting. We just got another batch from our staff maybe an hour ago.
Mhm.
So I haven't finished reviewing everything, but I'm kind of tallying and seeing what folks are thinking and want to see push forward. I will tell you that when I'm out talking to individuals at their houses, a lot of them do want to see ADUs happen, especially in our neighborhoods. Whether it's around the Wells Avenue
Mhm.
district or other spaces in the ward, I do see a lot of positive feedback for ADUs in particular.
Mhm.
I think fourplexes, it sounds like folks are a little bit more on the fence about that one, but ADU seem to have a lot more broader support in the community.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
had some conversations and I've heard similar sentiments that it is overall like a win-win for people. Affordable housing plus more money in people's pockets for that are homeowners.
Yeah, and appreciate those comments. Always welcome to have the conversation. You're welcome to send them to me directly or through public comment, and then we all get the ability to see all of that. So I appreciate that.
Right. And
Yeah.
just to confirm on the timeline, so it would be middle of June and then if approved, it would go into effect like middle of July. Is that right?
So yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Sounds
yeah,
good.
but I can make sure to follow up and then get you some more information.
That would be awesome.
for
Yeah.
that. Yeah,
Thank you.
of course. Any other question?
Okay, thanks. We'll let you go for now.
All right, thanks.
Okay, I'll move on to A6. Do we have a staff report?
Yes, I do have two items, Mr. Chair. The first being is that we are in community cleanup season. So we did have some occur already. So if you have missed out, there are a couple coming up in the next coming months or weeks. We actually have one this Saturday, 5/11, but for Ward 3 specifically, the community cleanup is scheduled for June 1st, from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Bond Middle School. And this is only for waste disposal. So no hazardous or e-waste will be accepted at this cleanup. But it's from 9 to 12. It's free to constituents and it's a great opportunity to get rid of any stuff that you may have. You can find more information on our reno.gov website /community cleanups. So if you're interested in seeing that full schedule, again, there are a couple left. So I encourage everyone to use that service to you all. And then additionally, to follow up on Councilmember Martinez, I do want to point to the audience and to our board members that we have Councilmember Martinez contact information. So if you do have questions that are not addressed at the meeting or not pertaining to what's on the agenda, we encourage you to continue to reach out to him. Or if you would like to schedule a meeting with him directly, I can help facilitate that after the meeting. And that's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Great. Okay, so we do have a longer agenda today, so we're just going to get right into it. We'll move to B1, Reno Fire Department update.
Good evening, board members. My name is Steve Siebert, Battalion Chief, Reno Fire Department. Just to give you a quick little synopsis of where we're at, what we're doing. Currently, we have a recruit academy in session. We have 25 recruit firefighters. We hope to graduate all 25 end of June, have them hit the line in July. We are also applying for a SAFER grant, looking to hire 15 more to help keep up with attrition. The the city council has approved money to go forward with planning a new central fire station, which we are hoping it will be located where the current police station is. And let's see, what else? We got 4 new fire engines, have another truck or heavy rescue that is on the way. So we're continuing with our capital improvement plan, capital replacement plan of fire apparatus. That continues to go well. And then finally, just a little snapshot. At this point of the year, we've run about 17,000 calls for service. I pulled a little data and Ward 3 came up with about 6,100 calls. So a little over a third of our call volume is from your ward. Primary stations serving your ward is Station 3 on Moana, 6 on the other side of the airport, 21 right there by the GSR, and then 12 out at Steamboat. Of those 6,100 calls, 417 of those were fire calls and 3,100 EMS calls. So if you don't have any questions.
Ilya Arberman, for the record, just one question about is there an ETA on the new station or what are the plans right now? for
No,
that?
it's a few years out. So PD still has to get into their new station. It will have to be raised and then we'd start from new. That's the current plan.
Marie Rodriguez for the record. A few months ago during one of the reports, we'd had a brief conversation about you were looking at putting together an Explorer post for young people
Yes,
that might
for
be
young-
interested in
18 or 17 to 20.
17 to 20 something, yeah.
Yeah.
Is that gone forward? Is it still in talking stages?
No,
or-
but we are moving forward with it. I don't have the specifics on it right now, but I do know that we have started and we are moving forward with it. Our line personnel have spearheaded that. So our line captains, firefighters, operators. So there is a program. What the status of it, I just don't have the information, but we are moving forward.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
And Ilya Arberman, for the record, could you guys just, for everyone, just maybe reiterate what that program is, just so people know what the Explorer program is?
So the Explorer program is basically high school age or just out of. It's for recruitment purposes. We bring young adults in that may have an interest, give them some training. They are able to respond to calls as an auxiliary role, kind of a support role, support function, logistics maybe. And it's a recruitment tool for us. And it also gives these young adults some experience and some exposure to what the fire department is and what we do. So it's a win-win for the community and for the fire department.
And if people wanted to learn more about that, how would they do that?
Go to reno.gov/fire department.
I have a question, Shonda Golden for the record. Do you ever, I mean, it might not be something that you could do, but have you ever considered bringing a fire truck to like a park so children could see?
We do it all the time.
Oh, you
Yes.
do?
Yes,
See,
we
I
do.
don't go to parks that often.
Yeah, no, we do school events. We do any open houses. We do a bunch of those throughout the year.
Oh, wonderful.
Yeah.
And so there's a park that I'm very connected to. How would I go about having you come to that park?
If you call our main number, 334-2300, the person that answers the phone will be able to direct you and help you out with that process.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Zach Bolton for the record. Are there any programs that community members could get involved, maybe help you out a little bit?
Yeah, I would have to get back to you, or have somebody get back to you on that. There are some, there's definitely, like, the county has volunteer program, but us particularly, we don't use volunteers for live incidents or for active incidents. Yeah, there's certainly, like, the police has the auxiliary and the CERT, which we do utilize them at times, but directly with the fire department at this time, we do not.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate you guys.
You're welcome.
Jared
Gabriel-
King for the record.
Go ahead.
Sorry. I've been working with a group called Wake Up Nevada. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but they distribute the Narcan boxes around the city and then fill them. In one of our recent meetings, they were trying to explore where we could maybe fill needs in the community where Narcan boxes could be of use. And I was thinking that maybe the fire department would have an idea of that. Do you know who we could be in touch with within your all's organization that could have that data? Maybe like the EMS data or anything?
Yeah, for any EMS data, things like that, I'm not sure how with our current reporting program, I'm not sure what's mineable, what data mining we can do with that. I'm sure there is. The best thing I would do is call that main phone number, that 334-2300, and they should be able to direct you in the right direction. Chief Green is the head of EMS. Beyond that, I don't have any good info for that.
That's good. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Give a reminder for the record. I did have a quick question for you. You mentioned at the beginning that you guys have 25 possible candidates to become firefighters for the community. In that during that course of time, what becomes an issue that could prevent them to become a firefighter?
What are issues? There's a weekly test. So the Recruit Academy is very intensive. It's a 19-week academy. They have book learning. They have, didactic learning. So they're reading chapters, they're doing book work, they're taking weekly tests. And then there's also physical tests, and there's weekly drill days. So there's a whole, there's multiple reasons why somebody would not be successful with us. Simply, they don't pass an academic, a didactic test. They don't make the marks during the field days, during the hands-on portion. Those are the primary two drivers of what flushes in a recruit.
Do they have the possibility to reapply and redo it again if they?
Absolutely. We
Okay.
have had folks that have not passed, we've had folks that have been injured, broken bones, that then get put back into another academy. We've had people that have reapplied because they didn't pass probation. So yeah, there's multiple. Once the door, it's not like the door closes forever for us. We're always open to recruitment.
Okay. I think that answers my question. Thank you very
Okay.
much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you so much.
You're welcome. Have a nice evening.
Okay, we'll move on to B2, the City of Reno Language Access Plan. We have that in our packet here as well. Thank you.
Good evening. Well, I will get started. My name is Noemi Gomez Martinez for the record. I am the Community Relationships Manager for the City Manager's Office, specifically in our Equity and Community Relationships team. And I'm here to provide really an update on the Language Access Plan, which is such a great initiative that's coming forth. Also give you some background information and ways that our community can be engaged in the process. And so you do have this presentation in front of you. So just for those that may or may not know, Language Access Plan is really derived from the Assembly Bill 266, which came from the legislative session from last year. And so really what this is a centralized document where we really outline a language access plan for the entire city for our constituents. And in just the next slide, I'll go over a little bit more on what this document entails. But essentially the goal is for all of our constituents to have access to our government resources, regardless of the language that is spoken. And then part of this, there's also a community engagement component, which I will also talk about how our constituents can be engaged in the plan, because the finalized plan will be a document that will live in the City of Reno website, and also a formalized piece on what our plan is regarding language access. So here, what you have in front of you is the framework. Within the bill, the AB 266 bill does require specific components that our plan has to have. In addition, we are also highlighting specific resources and processes that make sense, as well as we're seeing constituents speak different languages. That's going to be also highlighted in the plan. So we're doing a language needs assessment. So we are looking into data analytics when it comes to languages spoken in the City of Reno. So you'll see that highlighted in the plan. We are also doing a survey, and we have the survey available in the top 4 languages in the state. So we have English, Spanish, the Filipino language, and Mandarin, which is on our website. We also, the plan will be highlighting the existing language access services that we currently have. The city of Reno has been investing in these resources. Anything from ASL interpreters, we now have the Ubi Duo 3 devices. So if you don't know what those are, they're devices for those that are hard of hearing or unable to communicate. They can use a device that's wireless, so they don't have, or that's wireless and without Wi-Fi to be able to access and have a good service delivery. We also have the language access procedures. So if those of you that, for example, that have come to city council meetings, sometimes we have members speaking for public comment in different languages. So how do we assure that they're able to communicate this information and still have that service? And then we will be doing employee training procedures. So how do we properly train our employees when it comes to these services? This specific plan, it does not have any funding mandated. So as you can imagine, it does cost money to get translators and services. So we have a committee that's working on how much it costs forth. And that way, when we are out looking for funding, we can provide this information. And then final recommendations. This entire plan needs to be submitted to the Governor's Office of New Americans by August 1st. So we are in the process and on a tight timeline. And as mentioned, we have our language access survey. This is a way that communities can get involved. So this survey is available now. We have a specific website. If you go to reno.gov/language-access, it will not close because we are required by law to submit an updated language access plan every 2 years. So that changes drastically every time. So we are going to be keeping it open. And lastly, we are doing a joint listening session. So currently we are writing the plan and we are projected to have a draft ready by May 22nd, so this month. And constituents will be able to come to this meeting on the 22nd from 5:30 to 7 at the Sierra View Library at the Reno Town Mall to view the plan, ask questions, and provide any feedback. This is in partnership with Washoe County, as all municipalities and counties are required to have a language access plan. So all are invited. And then here is the website. We have an updated website available. So all this information is up there, including the language access plan bill. And then with that, I will take any questions.
Thank you so much. Just a quick starting question, Ilya Arberman, for the record. Those 4 languages, were those based on like just demographic survey information, just identified as like the ones that most, like the 4 most spoken languages in Reno?
Yes, that was based on census data. Yeah, we have a lot of different languages spoken, and we hope in the future to be able to highlight even more, have some sort of database where they can select their language. We did have to consult out to get them translated, but that's currently based on data.
Shonda Golden for the record. Mandarin, we have more Mandarin speakers than we do Polynesians that might speak Tongan or Samoan in Reno? Or are these 4 languages for all of Nevada?
For Nevada and then in Reno, I mean, there's a lot of languages that we can really dive into. We have to be very specific on kind of how we translate the document. I mean, we can get this survey really translated in any language. That's not a challenge, but just to get it going, get it started, we did the top 4 languages. If it's requested in a different language, constituents are more than welcome to get in contact with us, and we will absolutely accommodate.
It just seems odd to me that Mandarin would be above Tongan because there's a huge Tongan church here. But there's a
Yes.
bigger Chinese constituency in Reno than there is Polynesians?
There is on the data that was provided to us.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's interesting.
Yep.
You've done a great presentation.
Thank you. Yes, and the data will also be highlighted on the plan. So when you read it, the whole section on the Reno community as a whole entirely. So we'll see those languages come in. And I wish there was more of a way to even document the data. As you know, the census is every 10 years, but the language is changing. ASL is also a language that we're, needing to highlight. But
Well, I'm very happy to see Tagalog on there
yes,
since I'm part Filipino. You couldn't tell, but I am. So salamat for that.
I'm trying to learn the languages, but thank you.
Marie Rodriguez for the record. In making the languages or making the information about the city of Reno more accessible, I know that when you go to the City of Reno website, that you can click on the top right-hand corner and select Spanish, and the entire website goes to Spanish. Is it currently going to these other languages, Tagalog and Mandarin, or is it just Spanish at this time?
No, it is. Our website is like Google operated. So when you go on there, it's like a lot of different languages, not just Spanish. So if you go on there, you can select essentially a lot of different languages. Definitely, I think it's an opportunity for us to highlight how can people access that tool on our website to be able to change it. Right now, when you go onto the website, the language access page is in English, and then it'll go into the specific surveys, but we are going to get that translated just to remove a little bit more of a barrier when it comes to languages.
And who is responsible for making these languages accessible to some of the other city-driven departments? Like, I know that it isn't the case like with the Reno Police Department. There isn't a way to click on that and make the information about the Reno Police Department or maybe the fire department accessible in another language. Is that something that we're looking at doing?
Yeah, so that all falls under recommendations, and definitely encourage you to do a survey as well and add that in there because we will be taking that. So currently right now we have a team that works on our make sure that all of our websites are accessible in the back end as well. But it's definitely going to fall under recommendations.
Okay. And just one other thing. I know that this community survey is on the Reno website, and we do have this joint listening session coming up. How is this information being put out to the public so that they are aware of being able to participating in both this and the upcoming event?
Yes, thanks for the question. So we are doing a few different things. So we're out in the community we did a press release, going to the radio. We have in my current job, community relations, we do partnerships with our different community partners. And so we pass that information down, as it's crucial to have those partnerships because they are really close to their communities. So we've been out there. We are also having, for example, any events that we have out, we're pushing it out because we have specific flyers. Happy to provide those as well and send it over to Abby if you have anyone you can share it with. But we have, for example, an event coming up May 19th for our Asian American, Native Hawaiian, Pacific Islander month of May. And so we're going to have some of our staff out there doing surveys at the spot. So we're trying to be proactive in different ways.
Thank you. Sounds excellent.
Yeah, thanks.
Zach Bolton for the record. I see you have 4 languages targeted, but you only have Spanish and English survey links. In the future, do you plan on adding the other 2 languages surveys as links if they exist?
Thanks for catching that. That was an old screenshot, so I will change that. Yes, they're already up there.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you.
that was prior for us getting it took a little while to get those, so they're updated now.
Okay, I appreciate it.
Keep in mind for the record, I do believe this is a great initiative, especially to get the information out to the community. But I do have a question regarding, let's say if a individual wants to get information about opening a business here locally, they can go to the website. Everything will be, let's say, in Spanish. Now, when it comes to documentation and filling out applications and all that kind of stuff, are we also going to work on translating all those documents into the languages that we're working with, or is it going to be just another barrier where it's just everything's back into English and then we're back to square one?
Yep, great question. So part of the Assembly Bill 266 really highlights the vital documents. And so internally, we have a committee that's also taking a look at what are those vital documents. The goal is to get there. It's going to take time to be able to get those translated and identifying what are those vital documents, but we are currently now working on those to assure, like, if we're having, you're out looking for providing feedback in Spanish and then you come to a meeting and there's no one to help you, that's kind of productive. So we are taking into account what that looks like. And then in addition, we also have part of the plan highlights what services we have in place. So we have translators on site. So for example, if you speak Arabic, you should be able to come to City Hall and have access to any of our services without having that language barrier. Of course, some languages are spoken more frequent that are based on our census data, but aside from that, we will need to be able to help our constituents.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Looking
Thank-
forward to it.
Thanks.
Okay, we're moving on to item B3, the One Truckee River Community Survey. And not that it matters for discussion item, but for full disclosure, I was involved in doing this survey. So if anyone's wondering why there's a picture of me there, that's why. Nobody can't really tell. Go ahead, Iris.
Okay. I'm Iris Jaley Papard, the Executive Director of One Truckee River. And with me,
I'm Sierra Rambo. I work with the Reno Sparks Indian Colony and the Cultural Resource Department, and I was also a part of this Truckee River Community Advisory Team.
okay, well, thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share this information. So the Truckee River Community Advisory stakeholders, people from the community and from nonprofits and Reno Sparks Indian Colony who live and work in the area between Broadhead and John Champion Park. The group conducted a community-led research project supported by River Network, National Park Service, and One Truckee River with the focus to engage the knowledge, the lived experience, and understand the desires for corridor improvements from community members that lived in that area. Next. So what is community-led research? It's a process through which community members come together to gather and synthesize their collective wisdom and knowledge in order to more fully understand how a problem or a set of problems impact the community, to identify solutions that will work best for that specific community and to build a case for the support. So just, how it is specifically different than other research or surveys is that you're really focused on getting input from a very specific area. Next. So as I mentioned, here's a map of the area that we focused in. Next. And it's a 1 mile stretch, and we are in designated by federal. It's a disadvantaged community status area. And then it is parallel and part of really the Pyramid Tahoe Trail. That's a humongous asset for our community in the area we were focused on. It was dominated by apartments and industrial use. The area faces rapid economic challenges, as you all know, probably in this room. And then also it being obviously along the Truckee River, it's a critical source water protection area. Next. So diving a little bit deeper into what were the group's goals, it was to understand the desires and needs of the existing users of the corridor with the nearby community in order to encourage and advocate and support improvements that would have people invest more in the Truckee River corridor in this area. It demonstrates a model for community involvement in creating visions for future development and ongoing growth. And it engages those who have not been traditionally engaged in planning processes. Next. So how did we do this? So as a group, we spent much time going over the questions that we would ask, and then we finalized the survey. And we did flyering door to door with businesses, houses, and apartment complexes. We tabled frequently along the corridor, shared it at Nextdoor app, worked with RISE, a human service outreach group, to do interviews along the river. And then Reno Sparks Indian Colony used their communication systems, such as newsletters, to get the word out. And we collected 152 respondents from a really large range of demographics in the area. Next. Okay, so here is the results that we received. So, and this is the demographics. So you can see there, it was a range from homeowners to folks that were currently homeless along the river and everybody in between. Next. And that's a little more of the age range, and then the gender identification demographics that we collected from our respondents. And that amongst how often does the community use this part of the river corridor, you can see in the graphics on the screen. And I was actually really surprised, happily, that people do use the corridor in this area, which was, I think, a myth I had, that not a lot of people that live in the area use the corridor, but the survey showed that they do. So 40 to 70% of the respondents used the areas of the corridor, and we have it broken down there from both of the parks, and the river corridor is the area in between Broadhead and John Champion Park. Next. So how do people in the local area use the corridor is shown above. So it's used a lot for walking, and then relaxing and hanging out, biking, and then gathering with friends and family. And then the last one is hidden, commuting. As a humongous asset on the Truckee River corridor in this area is that it is continuous along the Truckee River. It doesn't, there's no private property that stops the public and make you have to go off of the river. It's just a straight shoot starting in that area and going all the way to Sparks. Next. Okay, so here's the improvements that the community would like to see. And so you can see more trash cans, benches, better lighting, public restrooms, and access to food. And 39% also wanted to see more green space, safety call boxes, easier pedestrian access to the river, and restoring the riverbank. So this was a narrative question that we asked. What would encourage you to visit and recreate in those areas more frequently? And you could see 24 said cleaner, and then safety came in after that at 18 respondents. Fewer unhoused individuals at 14, more lighting, bathrooms, and then drinking fountains and other, sources of food and drinks. So in conclusion, the group really wanted to highlight the importance of targeting input from relevant and existing community members, meeting people where they are really demonstrated respect for their lived experience and knowledge of people who will ultimately be impacted by changes in the area. And the success of the parks is largely dependent on investing in them. So it's really an encouragement to invest, and then more people will enjoy the corridor. And I think I said that. Okay, next. So we really found that the community-led research project showed the feasibility of including community voices on all levels, even smaller areas such as this part of the corridor. Wanted to mention that the survey respondents received a gift card, and that was supported by River Network. And that this is really a model that could be utilized in other areas of this region for community engagement. It's more labor intensive, but really believe that it has more impact to understand what people in a specific area would like to see in that area. And it demonstrates an alternative model to the top-down approach for community improvements by engaging the community that is there in that space. And we hope that the City of Reno has demonstrated desire to move towards community-led improvements. And we can invest more in the Truckee River, and that can be not only in downtown, but also east of downtown. Okay, that's it.
Okay, I'll open up to questions. Shonda?
Shonda Golden for the record. What a wonderful presentation. I think what you're doing is great. I did something similar to this all on my own with Paradise Park. I didn't even think to ask people to come with me. I just kind of did it myself. So bravo to you.
Thank you.
I do have a question. So I walk my dogs every morning, or at least I try, the marina in Sparks, and they have doggy stations. I didn't see that that was a need that anyone had said. Are they not walking dogs down there?
I don't think we really queued in a question that would have brought that up. I do see dogs when I'm down there, and just my personal opinion is that it would be of value to have those doggy waste stations. But I would say that probably wasn't showed in the results because we didn't ask the right question.
Okay, you probably, yeah. But so what they do at the marina is they actually have stations with plastic bags.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's very helpful.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and from my understanding, Truckee Meadows Parks Foundation runs that program, and they will install one if somebody sponsors it. And that means that you have a volunteer that is willing to always check it and put bags when they're all used up. So it requires a community volunteer to maintain them.
Okay, I don't know if the City of Sparks, I see City of Sparks workers out there. So I thought the city did that in Sparks.
Yeah, I don't know about Sparks. You are probably correct. I'm thinking of in the city of Reno.
Right. So how much money are you looking at that you're going to need for these improvements?
That's a great question. And it's interesting, the timing of this, because the Truckee River overall planning process is coming to activation, and that plan is being, finalized in the coming months. And so this work parallels that, but it's a completely, spontaneous track. And so I would say that looking over that work and this work, it's saying similar things and similar desires. And I think that what makes this unique is that it's an opportunity to show and highlight the community east of downtown Reno needs and deserves everything that west gets.
Mm-hmm. So what I did was I reached out directly to council members and had them walk the park with me. So that could be something that you might want to explore also.
Yeah, I have walked the river with Councilmember Martinez.
Yeah, he's great.
Yeah, and I think that, it includes building on the small group that we have to get bigger and to determine where they want to focus their advocacy work in.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Well, I think it's wonderful what you're doing. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you.
Ilya Arberman for the record. Just one preliminary thing. If people are interested and they do, like you said, maybe want to get involved, should they reach out to One Truckee River? What's a good way to get in touch?
Yeah,
with
that sounds great.
ongoing?
You can reach out to One Truckee River, and we have, our website is onetruckeeriver.org, and the one is spelled out. And our contact information is on that website.
And just, could you just describe a little bit? I know you talked a little bit about the process of kind of how we gather the information. Can you just talk a little bit about, one thing that wasn't in the survey was kind of how do we come up with the questions, or sort of what was the process of, because that took a really long time to get to the point where the survey was even ready. Maybe just, yeah, a brief overview of kind of how we did that and what that was guided by.
Okay. Yeah, River Network is a nonprofit that works with grassroots organizations across the nation. And so they've developed the community-led research model. And it's really, well, I explained what it was. And River Network gave One Truckee River a grant to reach out to local leaders and compensate them for a year with a stipend to come together to do this work. And so, I really want to reemphasize how unique the group is, with a member from Reno Sparks Indian Colony, somebody from Rise that was formerly homeless, a business owner, a homeowner. And I think that is everyone. And as I see that group, I don't see those individuals, coming together as a group in other spaces. So it created a diverse group right from the beginning. And we just really thought out a lot of what we were trying to get at, and what was the common thread that was held in the group, which, it took some time, I believe. And I don't know, I probably didn't get to what you were thinking of, but.
No, Ilya Arberman for the record. That's pretty much what I was thinking of. Mostly I was saying that part of, I think, the difference between this survey and certain other surveys was, I think we we didn't really have like a goal other than gathering information, right? Because there was no budget here. It wasn't like we had money that we were supposed to spend, right? It was really a very open-ended survey where we were just trying to figure out what people who hang out at Broadhead in the River Corridor and John Champion, like how they feel about those areas, how they feel like they could be improved, what kinds of things they want to do there. Because we didn't have any specific agenda, I think it made the survey a little more effective almost, because we were able to kind of ask kind of broader questions, But what's interesting is, even though that was the case, the answers were very specific, which was like benches, lighting, like all of these things that we could have maybe assumed people wanted. But I think what we were most surprised by was that regardless of the demographic and where they were, people pretty much just said the same things. Which means that, to me, that seems like that's a great way to guide improvement anywhere in the city, is kind of more open-ended rather than like having money set aside for something and getting started and then asking people. It's almost like you kind of need to ask them first and then you can figure it out. And I think that creates for a more dynamic engagement with the community, rather than sort of like we're gonna improve this corridor, and then sort of asking people after the fact, do they want this or that, rather than letting them kind of speak for themselves a little bit.
Yeah, and really documenting how people utilize the corridor in that area.
Marie Rodriguez for the record. Ever since I moved here, I have loved that we have a river that goes through the city. It's the second time I've lived in such a place, because I did live in San Antonio for some time. And that river is a place that people actually go to that city to see that river. And it makes me sad to know that just portions of it are utilized to the best of its ability, where other areas seem to be ignored. And I just think it should be, from one end of the city to the other city, it should be utilized and beautiful. And I know that the police department is going to be up against there soon, later this year, when it moves into the old RGJ building, later this summer. And I was wondering if you had reached out to them as you were reaching out to these different entities that back up against that river, because it's going to be something that's going to be right in their backyard, as we all know. But thank you for the presentation. It was great. And I'm glad that you guys are advocating it. And I support that effort that you guys are doing. And I hope to see progress on this soon.
Okay, great.
Mhm.
And to answer your question, I've had conversations over the years with police department, mainly focused on the issue of homelessness and the details of that dynamic on the ground. I have not had conversations about their building. In my personal belief, there's an asset there that could be opened up for the community. But it's seems like there'll be a need for a lot of advocacy for that to be considered.
Marie Rodriguez for the record again. And I don't know when you last had conversations, but we do have a different chief now for the last year. And I would definitely recommend reaching out. She's very receptive to what's going on in the community.
Okay, thank you. And it hasn't been with the new chief.
And Ilya Uberman, for the record, just to say one thing there, Marie, too, that during this work, one thing that we did discover that I think a lot of people don't know is that technically that whole area from Broadhead to John Champion is all, it's considered a park. So even the river corridor, which if you walk down the river corridor, it sort of seems like it's just like a connector, but it is a City of Reno park. And so I think that's one of the reasons why we thought the survey was important, because just like any other park, we discovered that people that want it to be maintained, they want it to look nice, they want to be able to enjoy it. And I think it's not that it just necessarily has a bad reputation. I honestly think a lot of people don't even know that it's there, you know, and sort of, if you say Broadhead Park, a lot of people don't know what you're talking about. So that's a big piece of the puzzle here too, is a little bit more outreach to even let people know that this is, it is a place you can go and hang out by the river. And there's probably some work to be done, but part of that is even just going there and enjoying it.
Yeah, and I want to give another plug for the people listening to the presentation and out here in the public that for One Truckee River, you know, we have our paddlers and we have our water quality people, and but we don't have, you know, this is the first stab at having a group that really represents that area. And I think there's a lot of value to that group growing. And One Truckee River really looks forward to supporting that work in the future.
Any more questions from up here?
Thank you.
Iris, Sarah, thank you guys so much.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we're going to move on to B4. We're going to hear from RTC.
Yeah. Okay.
Good evening. For the record, I'm Paul Nelson. I'm the Government Affairs Officer for RTC. I'm also joined by Jeff Wilbrecht. He's our engineering manager, so he can answer any technical questions that I don't really know much about by the time this thing is over. So once we get into the slides. All right, so we have a board of 5 commissioners. They're made up of electeds, one from the city of Sparks, that's Mayor Lawson. Then we've got 2 county commissioners and then 2 Reno City councilmen. And then we also have NDOT's Tracy Larkin Thomason, the director of NDOT. She's an ex officio on the during the meetings. And then our RTC executive director is Bill Thomas. Oops. So our mission at RTC is building a better community through quality transportation, and we work every day to try to do that. We've got 3 core functions, and that includes we're the Metropolitan Planning Organization. So we're looking at the plans of transportation in the future. We also do the engineering and construction, where we're designing and building the roads. And then we also do the public transportation in the Truckee Meadows. So with public transportation, our fixed route transit is RTC Ride, and it's really the backbone of our transit system. In the last 12 months, we've had more than 5.1 million trips, and 60% of those are work-related. So we know how beneficial it is for our economy and for the people that are trying to get to and from work. We've also had 21 straight months of ridership growth. So that's pretty important to us. That's something we've been really trying to do, is build our ridership. Sustainable transportation is something we've really been focused on too. So in 2022, we achieved 100% alternative fuel within our fleet. And that was 13 years ahead of schedule. The plan was to have that done by 2035. So doing it 13 years ahead of time was quite an accomplishment. That includes 23 all-electric buses, and that's about a third of our fleet. The other 2/3 are made up of diesel hybrid electrics. And then we also just got 2 new hydrogen fuel cell buses in December, and we plan on getting 6 more of those by the end of the year. And we plan on putting those into service as soon as we have our fueling facility put in place. Now, one of the nice things that we really like and why we're moving towards these hydrogen fuel cell buses is because with the all-electric buses, there's limitations. You get about 100 miles per charge. And so we're really limited. That's why we're not getting any more of those. There's only certain routes that we can really use those buses on, because some of these routes we need about 300 miles. With the hydrogen fuel cell buses, we can get closer to the 300 miles. And instead of charging it overnight, you can fuel it up with hydrogen. It takes about 10 minutes. So you get triple the range and it takes a lot less time. And the hydrogen actually fuels, it charges the battery as you're driving. So we've been really focusing on rebuilding transit. The pandemic and a few bus driver strikes really caused some issues with our ridership. It dropped quite a bit. So we've been really focusing on rebuilding that. And some of the success we've had was really largely because of our bus rapid transit. If you look at the Virginia line, that one runs from Meadowood Mall up to the 4th Street bus station. And then the Lincoln line runs from the bus station over to Centennial Plaza down 4th Street and Prater Way. And when you add up the number of rides over the last year, it's about 1.4 million. We've got about 20 bus routes. Those 2 alone account for about 27% of our rides. So we see how important these 2 routes are for our riders and what an asset those are. One of the nice things about these compared to other routes is they stop about every 10 minutes. So frequency is really big. Another successful program we have is FlexRide, and we put this out just a few years ago. It's our on-demand curb-to-curb service, and we have it in areas where we don't have enough demand for a fixed bus route, but there's still demand for public transportation. So we've got 4 zones where we operate this. It's kind of our version of Uber and Lyft. It costs about $2 per ride or $3 for a day pass, which is the same as our bus fares. And if you look here, the way it works, these are the first 2 of our zones, Spanish Springs and North Valleys. Anywhere within those zones, let's say you're in Spanish Springs and you're up by the high school, you can get a FlexRide. It'll be there in about 20 minutes. It'll give you a ride down to, say, Reed High School. If you want to get somewhere outside of that zone, you can get, they'll drop you at a bus stop. You can get on the fixed route system, and that'll give you access to the rest of the city. You can also reverse that. If you live in Ward 3 and you want to get out to Spanish Springs, you can take a fixed route bus over to the FlexRide zone, get a FlexRide up to a barbecue or a football game or whatever you're going to in that area. So Spanish Springs, North Valleys, those are our first 2 zones. And then Somerset and Verdi is another one. Just Saturday, we launched the South Meadows FlexRide area. And we think that this will be a successful zone because we do hear from people that want more public transportation. There's just not enough demand down there. And there's only 1 bus route that goes down there as it is. If you look at that map too, you'll see little squares outside of the zone. And that's points of interest where FlexRide will also take you. So it's places like the DMV, Winco Foods, Walmart, the Summit Mall, Rayleigh's, Redfield Campus. So there's a lot of different options for people. It can also drop you off at a bus station and you can go up Virginia Street. 2 other really good programs we have are the Senior Ride Taxi Bucks program and the Van Pool program. The way Senior Ride Taxi Bucks works is if you're a senior or a veteran, you can get a card and it auto loads every month, $60. You can use it for taxis or for Ubers. And if you don't use it, it won't roll over, but at the start of the month, it'll automatically reload. So you'll get $60 the next month for it. You can also use this for Uber and Lyft. With Van Pool, this is one that we're really, really happy about. It's a carpool program for people that work together. So we've got 340 vans and they range in size. You can have maybe 5 people in a small SUV like this, or you can get a large van that'll fit about 15 people. We've got 340 vans and it's the 6th largest in the country. And one of the reasons we think that we're so successful at that is because of our geography. We've got people that commute to Carson City, Lake Tahoe, Truckee, Susanville, Fernley, Trick. So there's a lot of different long distance areas where a lot of people commute. So it teams up. Enterprise will sponsor them by providing the vehicle. RTC provides a subsidy. Employers can provide a subsidy. So it makes it really cheap for whoever is driving it. And then they can also use it as their personal car. So in 2023, this program saved 20 million miles traveled on our highways just locally. So if you think about that, that's a lot of congestion we're removing, a lot of emissions we're removing. And if you got 5 people riding in a car, that's 4 less cars that are on the road. So to planning now, one of the big things that we're doing right now is we're updating our regional transportation plan, or the RTP. We do this every 4 years and we plan on having it finished by next spring. And what it does is identifies the long-term projects that we have in our system. So we're looking 20+ years into the future on how we want to build our transportation system. So right now we're updating the 2050 version, and then in 4 more years, we're going to be updating again, possibly going out to 2055. What we really want to do here also is capture the community's vision of what they want the transportation system to be. And we will use that to identify the projects, programs, and services that are necessary to achieve that vision. And this could be implemented by the RTC, other member entities, or NDOT. Another plan that we're working on right now is our active transportation plan, and this is one that we're calling Walk and Roll Truckee Meadows. It's a component of the RTP, and it's really trying to make bicycling and walking in our community a lot safer. It's for all ages, so we can hear people out age 8 to 80. We look at sidewalks and bicycle facilities, and we analyze existing data in terms of transit, equity, safety, bicycle level of stress, and the pedestrian experience index. We're also in the middle of a freight plan. So the purpose of this is to really facilitate safe and efficient freight and goods movement. And you guys know there's a lot of fulfillment centers and distribution centers out there, a lot more warehousing. And we see that freight going up and down I-80 and up 580 and 395. So what we're trying to do is foster a thriving and diverse economy in Northern Nevada and identify and support infrastructure improvements that we can put in place. Now to engineering. This is a big one that the community is well aware of, especially this time of the year. Last year, we invested $87 million into our road projects, and that created directly 2,600 jobs. Some of them that are happening in the Ward 3 area is the Audie Wells project. Now, this is our biggest active project in terms of what's under construction. It's 3.2 miles of roadway that goes between Pyramid Way all the way down to Interstate 80. It includes 6 miles of raised cycle tracks, so 3 miles on each side of the road. It also has ADA sidewalks, 490 new trees, 433 new lights, privacy walls in some of the areas. If you look at that picture on the right, you can see one of the privacies right there. And we anticipate completing this entire project this fall. Right now, the bulk of the work is happening to the west of Highway 395. Phase 3 goes to Sutro Street. We expect that to be completed sometime later this month in terms of major construction. And then Phase 4, which goes down Wells, should be done by the fall. This is a big project, $52 million. So some of the other projects we got going on, Mill Street capacity and safety later this year, we do plan on expanding this roadway. We want to widen it from 4 lanes to 5 to southbound I-580 where the on-ramp is. We'll have a new signalized intersection at Mill Street and Golden Lane. We're going to close access from Redwood Place and Louise Street. And we're going to install a raised center median that allows only right turns at Reservation Drive and on Matley Lane. And then we'll also include some ADA accessible facilities, drainage facilities, underground, the existing overhead utilities. So you see all the phone lines and power lines up above. Those are going to go underground. Oh, and it goes from Kitsky Lane to Terminal Way. Another one we've got is the Kitski Lane ITS project. So this one's going to be an installation of fiber optic communications for the traffic signals. We've been doing this in a lot of different areas where we're just using better technology to make our traffic system operate a lot better. And that a big part of that is our traffic signals. Some other traffic signal modifications that we're making, you can see there's a handful of them in Ward 3 that we're working on right now. And this could be anything from signal timing to ADA upgrades or infrastructure improvements of the light posts. Another thing that we're going to be doing starting next year or during next year, we did this last year too. We had some bridge resurfacing projects. Next year, we're going to be working on Coonsley Street, Evans Avenue, Valley Road, and Ralston Street. So all 4 of those bridges will get resurfaced next year. Also next year, this will be a project that a lot of transit riders will notice, and that's the Virginia BRT improvements. So if that top left picture right there, you might have seen some of these mini BRT stations. Well, we're going to take those down and we're going to put up full-size BRT stations like you see down on the other 2 pictures. And when you look at that bottom left picture, we're going to be making some changes to our original BRT stations because when we built those ones, they were built originally for those big articulating buses, those long ones with the pivot in the middle. Well, we realized that those buses were a little bit too big. We didn't need that much bus, so we switched to our standard buses. The problem is that the platforms for those, they were level with the entrance for those older buses, but these newer buses are lower. So that ramp you see, it doesn't go flush with the platform. So we're gonna be taking a few inches off of those platforms that make it ADA accessible for people to get onto the bus. And then another thing we'll be doing is between Peckham Lane and Plum Lane, we'll be putting in some bus only lanes. So that'll allow, quicker access for the buses. And I believe we're doing this without reducing any travel lanes for cars. Another big upcoming project we have is going to be happening in 2026, and we're calling this 6th Street for All. It runs from Virginia Street to the east down to 4th Street. And this is really about improving the safety. This is one of the most dangerous streets we have in our high injury network. So some of the improvements we want to make are, we're going to include 8-foot sidewalks, 5-foot bike lanes with a 3-foot buffer, and we'll have street side parking. We're going to reduce this from 4 lanes of traffic down to 2 with a center turn lane. So we're really hoping that that'll slow down traffic. It'll make things a lot better for cyclists and for pedestrians and really cut down on the injuries that we're seeing on this corridor. The good news for this is we received almost $9 million from the federal government for a grant that'll help us construct this project. Another big one we have coming up in 2026 is our downtown Reno micromobility project, and we've identified 4 streets that we plan on making improvements for cyclists and for pedestrians, and those are Vine Street, Virginia Street, Lake Street, and 5th Street. And really, when you look at those north and south streets especially, one of the big benefits to that will be it's going to connect the areas of Old Southwest Reno and Midtown up north of Interstate 80, particular to the university area. So we think that that'll be really good. It'll hopefully make things a lot more comfortable for people as they're walking and biking through the downtown area. And it'll also create safer and healthier options for transportation. And another one we've got coming up is the Pembroke Drive Capacity and Safety Project in 2026. You guys might have noticed that there is more traffic on that street now that Veterans Parkway has been running for quite a while. So to adjust to that, we do plan on adding some lanes to this between McCarran Boulevard and Veterans Parkway. And we're also going to install a multi-use path that will connect from the McCarran multi-use path to the Veterans Parkway multi-use path. Again, I'm Paul Nelson, and I'll be happy to take any questions from you. But first, I do have a request from you going back to that RTP. If you guys have your phones handy, we want community involvement with this. So if you have your phones ready, you can look at that QR code and fill out a short survey. It only takes a few minutes. It's about 6 questions, multiple choice. Or you can head to our website or the website there that's listed, and you can fill out the survey there. Questions?
Yeah, Ilya Arberman, for the record. I had a question about the Flex Ride. Is that something so do you need a bus pass to ride that, or how does it work as far as what you need to ride the Flex Ride?
So Paul Nelson for the record. So one of the ways that you can use the Flex Ride is to use the transit app. You can just go on that and you can order your Flex Ride, or you can call customer service and they'll send a Flex Ride to you.
And what's the fare? Or does it depend on
the
what's
fare-
happening?
The fare, I believe, is $2 per ride or $3 for a day pass.
Doesn't matter kind of how far it's taking you?
Nope.
Gotcha.
Zach Bolton for the record, just to make sure, because I've never personally used RTC, the Flex or the all-day pass would cover both the Flex Ride and your traditional bus?
I'll have to check on that, but I think that it does. If you get the day pass, it will allow you to take a Flex Ride and then transfer onto a fixed route.
Okay. And how long would a Flex Ride typically take, do you know?
Generally, on average, is about 20 minutes, but depending on how busy it is, it could take a little bit longer. And if the wait gets up to, say, like an hour, then what we can do is also send an Uber in its place.
Okay, thank you.
Shonda Golden for the record. How often are the buses cleaned? Are they cleaned every night?
I'm not sure, but we do have very clean buses. That's one thing that, people are concerned, like how clean are the buses?
Mhm.
What kind of people are on the buses? Is it safe? Well, we do have very safe buses and they're very clean. I do think that they clean them every night after the shifts, but I'm not positive. Especially during COVID.
Marie Rodriguez for the record. The senior ride, you said, is also for veterans. Do they need to be disabled veterans, or is it just anybody who has a veteran's card, can do this 60 per month thing?
I think it's all veterans and also people with disabilities. So seniors, people with disabilities and veterans can apply
Okay.
for that $60 card.
And also, the freight planning, you did mention that because, I know we have a lot of commercial traffic here. And we just approved for another freight company to, they're building their place right there on Mill Street between McCarran and Rock. And so it's not just 395 and 580 and 80 that have a lot of this heavy traffic. We have a lot of areas around town because we have warehouses everywhere, it seems like. So is RTC responsible for looking at these streets? Because we know that these vehicles max out at like 80,000 pounds, which is a lot more than a car. So when we're looking at those streets, are we taking into account the high freight volume on those streets?
Jeff, do you know about that? You're the expert on that.
Yeah, my name's Jeff Wilbert for the record. So you're spot on with that comment. So two kind of components of it. So the freight plan at the RTC, we really look at the regional level. So NDOT has a component of what they do at the interstate and freeway level that also looks at freight. And so we kind of take that to our local roadway network. And to your point, exactly, Rock Boulevard and McCarran, these are major routes for freight. And so we are looking at it from the freight networking plan or component, as well as how the road is constructed, right? So when we rebuild a road or do any kind of work on a road, we're looking at what that subgrade is, what the number of easels, that's kind of the number or the term that we use to design a road. And so the larger the vehicle, the higher number of easels, the thicker the structural section needs to be. So yes.
Okay. And just to kind of build on that, I know that at one point, between what's now Veterans Parkway and McCarran on Mira Loma, the sign is still up there that that's a non-truck route. But with Veterans Parkway being there, trucks take that because it really does not make sense for them to go all the way down to South Meadows Parkway or all the way up to Gregg when they have a delivery right there in that area. And I know it's not being enforced because it just doesn't make sense to enforce it because we don't want them right now the way it is. You were talking about Pembroke, going down Pembroke. So with this widening of Pembroke, will it now become a truck route? And if it does, is that weight distribution of these vehicles being taken into account into widening of Pembroke?
Yeah, and I don't know exactly if Pembroke's can be identified as a truck route. The city of Reno does have a list of approved truck routes. They'll put those signs up on those roads and kind of identify, hey, this is not a truck route. But that doesn't necessarily defer if there's a delivery and a truck needs to get there to make a delivery to that location. Anything we do on Pembroke would be designed to accommodate whatever the traffic is that we anticipate forecasted for that area.
Okay, because Pembroke does go right over to Rock and Mill and that area, so I anticipate that with that widening, it's going to be a desirable route for trucks to use.
Yep.
Yeah. Thank you.
And then also with this map, I didn't really talk about it too much, but the red is obviously where the highest volume of trucking is. And then the different colors show where the truck routes are throughout the region.
Ilya Arman, one other question about the long-term plan. I didn't notice anything specific in there, but are there plans as far as adding routes, expanding routes? Like, how does that process work and what's the timeline for, say that there's a new route identified?
Yeah, we've got, in our long-term plan, we've got quite a few different routes that we're either going to be expanding capacity on, especially when you go out to the North Valleys and Spanish Springs, there's a lot of growth out there. So we're adding capacity in those areas. We've also got long-term plans to potentially build a connector between Lemon Valley and Spanish Springs. And then there's a possibility of building a connector between South Meadows Parkway and USA Parkway. And then also in Spanish Springs, La Posada, connecting that to USA Parkway. That's all long-term. There's a lot of work that has to happen before that becomes reality, including, there's federal lands issues, there's private lands issues, tribal issues. So there's a lot of different things that we got to go through before we can even start planning those roads.
Marie Rodriguez for the record. I do have a few more, I'm sorry. That one thing that you had that you said kind of works like a Lyft Uber type of thing, is that service available to students? And if so, do students get a special discount?
Are you talking about FlexRide?
Right, the Flex Ride.
Yeah, for FlexRide, anybody can use it. I don't know if there's any kind of limitation on like if you're too young to ride it, but yeah, students can use FlexRide. They can also use our fixed route system. In fact, I think the busiest bus route we've got right now is Route 5 that goes up to Sutro, up into Sun Valley. We have a lot of students that take that one.
Yeah, but my question was, I know sometimes bus fares for seniors are less or for students are less. Would that be the case for the Flex?
So for college students, we've got what we call the Ed Pass that includes UNR, DRI, TMCC, and Western Nevada. They all can ride the bus for free. And we're trying to get a federal grant right now that would allow us to extend that to grade school kids, to high school students.
Okay, and you mentioned one time something about that one point there had been the driver strike. With this expanding, we're going to be needing more drivers. Are you still using Keolis for your drivers? And do they have more competitive wages now at this point?
Yeah, Keolis is still our provider and they're talking right now, discussing wages. And I'm not sure what's going to happen with that, but hopefully our wages are going to be suitable for them.
Thank you.
Give a reminder for the record. So if I'm understanding correctly, the FlexRide, you can call to request a ride and it will be within 20 minutes or some kind of time frame around that time. How come when it comes to people with elderly and individuals with disabilities, they have to call ahead more than 24 hours just to set an appointment to get a ride? And it kind of feels like, it's more restrictive for the people that are supposed to help more than, let's say for a Flex Ride.
You're talking about our access program?
Correct.
Compared to FlexRide?
Yeah.
And I don't know why that is. I don't know why they have to reserve it for access. I do think that the seniors and people with disabilities can also use FlexRide. They're the same buses. We call them cutaways, those smaller shuttle buses. And I think they've got the exact same structure. So I think that FlexRide can offer what access can. I'm not positive, but yeah, I don't know why one is immediate and one of them isn't.
Yeah. Because I do have a relative who needs to use the bus to get to his academy. And it's kind of hard with trying to sometimes forgetting to call 24 hours ahead of time to make the schedule. And then, like, if you don't call within the time frame, they don't pick you up. And it's just like, I access to be a little bit more accessible for that kind of situations.
Sorry, this is Jeff Wilbrecht for the record. One thing I think is a little bit different between FlexRide and Access is the same footprint as our fixed ride service. So it's our entire Truckee Meadows network is serviced by Access, whereas the FlexRide is really specific to those smaller fine-tune areas. So there could be lots of Access vehicles in one area, and if there's a request in a totally opposite area, they just want to be able to plan and route themselves to be able to provide that service. So I think that's part of the benefit of having reservations with that.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Jarrett Singh for the record. I had a question along the lines of Ilya's as well. Is there in the long-term plan more dedicated bus lanes that are expected to be in the city outside of just what we have currently?
As far as I know, the only dedicated bus lanes that we have right now are on the BRTs. Virginia, especially, I'm not sure about the Lincoln line. There's a possibility that we will be expanding the BRT, the Lincoln line west on 4th Street. I don't know if that'll have it or not. Do you?
Excuse me. Again, Jeff Wilbrecht for the record. So where we get our most bang for the buck in terms of a bus only lane is on those high frequency routes. So Virginia line and Lincoln line. And we are doing a lot with this Virginia line BRT project to add a lot of bus only lane in that area. And then as Paul was saying, we have our Lincoln line, which is the east-west route. We have some preliminary plans to expand that to the further west towards Stoker in that area. The geometrics and the kind of the footprint of that road really isn't going to allow much opportunity for bus only lane specifically. There could be some other kind of tricks that we do with signals and queue jumps is what we call them, or transit signal priority, which essentially gets the bus through the signal kind of at a lesser, it operates very similar to like an emergency vehicle going through there, but at a reduced urgency, I guess is a way of saying it. It's not going to just immediately turn all of the signals one color to get the bus through. So it's a less urgency type of a system. We are also have a planning study going on South Virginia from Meadowood towards the summit. And there may be some opportunity there for us to have bus only lane in that area. So we're always looking for it. It's a great benefit where we have existing right of way and footprint to provide that service. So
Awesome. Yeah, just a follow-up question there too. And kind of out of curiosity, what is the biggest inhibitor, I guess, that you all see when you're looking to put in like a dedicated bus lane?
It's the conflict or the kind of a lot of our roads in our area are really tailored towards vehicular traffic, and there's a vehicular demand of capacity that is those vehicles warrant. And so when we convert a general purpose travel lane to a bus only lane, we're taking away anywhere from 5,000 to 7,000 ADT capacity in that route and giving it to a bus. And so we have to make sure that road, if we do make that conversion, can accommodate it and it won't cause negative impacts.
Thank you.
Marie Rodriguez for the record, just to kind of follow up off of that. Do you have like ongoing public input on what residents are looking, especially with the tremendous growth that we're having in Reno and Sparks, to see where there wasn't once a demand, there might be a future demand or an upcoming demand? Is that an ongoing thing that you guys are working with?
So we do we're doing the RTP update right now, so that's part of it. But we also have CMAC committee, our Citizens Multimodal Advisory Committee, where citizens we do give them presentations, we talk about it, and they give our input before we go and talk to our board about it. There's also public comment at all our board meetings, so there's always opportunities for people to discuss that with us.
How can you get that information and how can you sign up for that kind of stuff? For that committee or advisory board?
I think you can find that on our website.
All right. Any more questions from the board? Thank you so much. Yeah, it was a great presentation. Thank you. Okay, we're moving to C1. I think our last business item here, development project, the Northern Nevada Public Health Behavioral and TB Clinic on Sutro and 9th.
Good evening. Thank you for the opportunity to be here. I'm Stacy Huggins with Wood Rogers, representing this project before you guys tonight. This is a request for a conditional use permit for the Northern Nevada Public Health Behavioral Health Facility and a tuberculosis clinic. So I have just a quick presentation. Let's see if I can. There we go. Some of you may be familiar with this location. It's on the southeast corner of East 9th Street and Sutro Street. It was formerly the West Hills Mental Health Facility. That building still exists there today. If you've been out this way at all recently, you've seen it's been boarded up. That building has been closed since December of 2021. So there's nothing happening in that building right now, but this conditional use permit hopefully will allow that building to get reestablished with a similar use. I mentioned the location of the site. It is kitty corner, the Washoe County complex. So again, if you're familiar with that area, there's a lot of other Washoe County services in that area. Access to this site has been and will continue to be off of 9th Street with a secondary access off of Sutro in the southeast, or pardon me, southwest corner of the site will be gated to make sure that the general public doesn't use that as an access to the facility. In terms of master plan and zoning, the property is master planned public, quasi-public with a conforming zoning district of public facility. The Reno Development Code allows healthcare facilities that provide acute and overnight care within this zoning district with the conditional use permit, which again is the reason we're here. So this conditional use permit is actually kind of covers two pieces. I mentioned that the West Hills facility had been closed in 2021. So we need to reestablish that. And in order to reestablish a mental health facility in this building, we need a CUP to reopen the doors for a mental health facility in this building. So in the existing building, similar to what was operating in that building initially, will be a Washoe County mental health facility. Will provide 95 treatment beds focused on youth, developmental, behavioral health needs, as well as pediatric and adolescents that need the mental health care. This portion of the project will operate 24/7 with 3 split shifts, with most of the activity happening in this building on a daily basis between 7:30 and 5 p.m. It's the same operational practice that happened with the West Hills when it was functioning in this facility just a couple of years ago. The second part of this conditional use permit is what you see on the exhibit there labeled as proposed building on the west side of the existing building. That new building will house a tuberculosis clinic. It's approximately 7,000 square feet in size, added on to that side of the building. Right now, the TB clinic is functioning in a building downtown near Renown. That building has, they've kind of outgrown that facility that they're in right now. And so this is an opportunity for them to expand their current footprint and also provide improved and updated exam rooms and updated technology so that they can better serve their patients. This TB clinic is a Monday through Friday, 8 to 5 facility. They generally only see 3 to 4 patients a day, and they have a very small staff in this building. They have nurses that go out to the community when they need to, but generally there's not a lot of activity happening on this site. I want to just touch on a couple of things associated with the project. I mentioned the access. Again, all of the access with this new project will continue to come in and out of 9th Street, where it has traditionally been located, with that secondary gated access on the southwest corner. We looked at traffic related to the project. Again, with the existing or the previous West Hills project, the street network was considered to be adequate for that project. So we really focused more on what the proposed TB clinic would bring in addition to what was existing there. So for the clinic portion, it would add approximately 30 PM peak trips or 263 trips. That comes in at about 189 PM peak trips for the whole project, which is below the city of Reno's requirement for a full traffic study. So we did have our traffic engineers look at it. They confirmed they did not see an impact on the existing street network in this area. In terms of parking for this project, there were 110 parking spaces on this site. With the new building, we lost a couple, but we're still, as you can see on the screen, we were required to provide 88 spaces. That's based on employees within the total project. We have 107 spaces with 96 on site and 11 spaces on the street that already exist. So those will be available for parking as well. And then because this facility may sometimes include opportunities for the UNR medical students to do training programs, there's the potential to have more people here on a rare occasion, in which case there is parking available kitty corner in the Washoe County complex, where they have over 800 parking spaces. So they can definitely accommodate the parking in this area. The other thing I want to just note about parking and access is that there are two currently active bus stops adjacent to this site. So there is a bus stop on Sutro Street that is, I don't know that I can point to it, but there's a little blue box up close to the corner of Sutro. Thank you so much. So that's an existing bus stop. And then there's another little blue box on East 9th Street. Yep, right there. That also serves the east-west current bus stop. That bus stop on 9th Street will actually serve as the ADA access into this facility. So people that are coming that may need that accessibility function will be able to use the 9th Street bus stop. So just a couple pictures so you can see what the buildings are intended to look like. On that top view, that's going to, again, be the portion that is facing 9th Street. We're not really making a lot of changes to the exterior of the building. We are adding some colors. We're adding some materials to make it look a little more like your typical Washoe County colors and materials. So you can see we're not increasing the building height. That building is not changing except for maybe some sprucing up on the outside. On that top slide to the left for you guys, where I've labeled the new clinic, you can see how that will be incorporated into the existing building. And looking at the west, again, facing Sutro Street, those are the two really visible sides of this building. You can see how they've been designed to integrate and come together. I do want to just point out that really the new TB clinic will be constructed in one phase. It's small enough that it can be done all at one time, and it will seamlessly connect into the existing buildings or building. So these are just the other views, the south view of the building and then the east view. No changes to those sides of the buildings. The last thing is just there will be a new sign located on the site to make sure people know where they're going and to identify this site. It's a monument sign. It matches all of the other Washoe County facility signs. If you've seen any of those across the streets, this is the same style. And this will be 6 feet in height, which is allowable by code. So that summarizes our project. I am available for any questions if you have them.
Marie Rodriguez for the record. I was very familiar with West Hills Behavioral, and I'm familiar with Reno Behavioral Health as well. I've gone to both of these places in my job duties. But I noticed with this having the Washoe County sign, is this going to be a public facility as opposed to a private facility? Is it going to be part of Washoe County, or is it privately owned?
It is going to be part of Washoe County, and the tuberculosis clinic will be operated by Northern Nevada Public Health.
Okay. And you mentioned that there's currently a TB place with Renown, but that they're outgrowing it. So will Renown continue to have a facility, or will it all be moved here?
My understanding is that it will all be relocated to this facility. Do you want to talk about it? I'm going to ask the tuberculosis clinic representative to give you a little bit of information.
Hi, my
Mm.
name's Tasha Pascal. I'm the TB program coordinator right now. So right now, the tuberculosis clinic isn't associated with Renown. We're just close to Renown, but we're Northern Nevada Public Health.
Okay, so
Yeah.
it is a public facility.
It is
then.
a public facility, yes.
Okay, now back to my previous questions. This facility, from what I've read, it's going to be all juvenile. That's not going to be any mental health for adults. Is that correct?
I believe that there is a small component available for adults, but I would have to confirm that. It is focused on adolescent and pediatrics, but I believe in my initial discussions, there was some discussion of a little bit of adult care available. Could
Okay.
I look into it and maybe follow
Sure.
up with you?
Yeah. And the reason I'm kind of focused on it being part of Washoe and public is these facilities tend to require police response from time to time. And with West Hills and with Reno Behavioral Health, being that they're privately owned and inside of the Reno jurisdiction, Reno police respond to those. But like with the CARES campus being part of Washoe County and this being a Washoe County facility, I'm just wondering if it's going to require RPD response, or will this be handled by the Washoe Sheriff's Office whenever law enforcement's required to intervene?
I do not know for certain, but because it's in the city of Reno, I would expect that it's a city of Reno response. We have not received comments from RPD on this project. I would maybe say you could reach out to the staff planner and ask them if they've received comments on the public agents or the.
I just foresee issues there, just like at the CARES campus. So I think it should be looked at
Okay.
prior to, it being approved or otherwise.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you.
Zach Bolton for the record. I know mental health can kind of be scary sometimes, so I just wanted to clarify, what is the severity level that would be targeted at that facility?
I do not have a good answer for you right now. Unfortunately, the mental health folks couldn't be here tonight, so I am not able to give you the best answer. But similar to the question that you asked me, I would be happy to put something together and send it back to Abigail that she could try to share with you guys so that I have a good answer for you, because I don't want to give you an answer that's incorrect.
Yeah, of course. Is part of the plan also to offer overnight stays as well?
It will be overnight stay, which is why this is a 24/7 facility. So there will be staff and patients on site 24/7 getting the care that they need.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Shonda Golden for the record, will that be, if it's a 24-hour facility, will it be a lockdown facility?
Potentially.
Okay.
I don't know how it's going to operate to that extent. But again, we can try to have some of those answers.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, and Ilya Arberman for the record, and to your question, Zach, I mean, in the text, it does say acute and overnight care. So presumably, that kind of answers that it's for more serious situations.
Yeah, I just know that some people have like the developmental while others have
Mhm.
self-harm behaviors. So I guess that was more of my broad question.
So we can follow up later,
Yes.
yeah, with someone who knows.
Yes. Anything else?
Any more questions from the board? All right, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Okay, so we'll move on if anyone has any announcements. Item D. Any future agenda requests? And let's open it up then, Abby, for if there's any public comment, either in the room or online.
All right, if you would like to give public comment at this time, I would ask that you step up to the microphone. And then if you are on Zoom and would like to give public comment, please raise your hand. And seeing none, Mr. Chair.
Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Ray Rodriguez for the record. I'd like to motion that we adjourn for tonight.
Do I have a second?
Shonda Golden for the record, I second.
Okay, who's ready to go home? Okay, meeting is adjourned. Thanks, everybody.